For those who studied history, they know someone called Walter Rodney. He's one of the most famous professor who wrote the book How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. When he was talking about infrastructures in Africa, means of transport and communication, or infrastructure in general in Africa, he had a very good way of analyzing. Today's topic is to analyze how the means of transport and communication in African systems can be used to become a source of development rather than the source of pride, the source of, I don't know how to explain, like just people assuming development is just to have bigger roads. Development is just to have this kind of highly sophisticated infrastructure. But what does Walter Rodney say about means of transport and communication? Welcome to the EBM Scholars Show, and this is Ernest Boniface Makulilo, EBM. Before you continue, you have to subscribe to my channel in case you haven't done so. So, let's start. I was talking about Walter Rodney, the most famous professor, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. When he was talking about means of transport and communication in Africa, he said the following words, I quote, "Means of transport and communication in Africa were not created so that Africans could visit their friends, their relatives, their uncles. They were not made, in this case, so that Ernest Makulilo could move from his hometown, Kigoma, to go to Dar es Salaam just to visit another relative." Just that I added that one. They were created purposely to transport raw materials from the interior to the coast, and also to transport manufactured goods to the coast area, to the market area. So, don't assume these colonial masters built roads, railways, so that for you to enjoy traveling from one area to another. That was not the main intention of that one. It was a purely economic reason. Why I'm saying that? I've been traveling around many African countries, and now we getting caught with the infrastructure that we build, very good infrastructures, which I appreciate that. But the problem what we are having, we don't link those infrastructures and the economy. How the economy of the country can grow in the same rate with these infrastructures we are building. For instance, the Kenyan government, they had the opportunity to get a very big loan from China to be able to to create a railway from whatever, I don't know, from Mombasa going to Nairobi, somewhere very, very big railway. So, obvious, if you don't pay, they will take the Mombasa harbor. That's the side effect of it. But why do you need to take all this money from China to build a railway? For what purpose? Have you created, first of all, the strong agricultural economy in your country? Have you created the business and everything so that you can be able, that railway is not someone to travel from Nairobi to go to Mombasa, from Nairobi going to another region so that someone can visit their relative. Rather, someone can be able to transport coffee, transport something from Mombasa harbor, going to Nairobi. Have you ever created that kind of economy first? Rather than just someone to take a selfie on the brand new railway. That's where we miss a point. And in order to understand detail about that is, what can I say? When you go to ask for loan to my understanding, which I wrote in my book, the Imperialism 2.0, Why Africa, is this way. You go with your proposal. I want to get this loan, I want to build a rail, I want to build this one, I want to create something. No Western country, no Chinese, Asian, imperialistic country, capitalist country, will give you a loan, which that loan will be used against the exploitation to you. Remember, these people are not your friends. It's business. So, we know for sure, whether it is Western countries, whether it is China, they are capitalist. They are the same. What happens is, when they give you the loan, they cannot give you the loan you will be able to use maybe 5 billion you got from China to build industry in your country. Because if you build the industry in your country like Kenya, if they do that, means China will not get raw materials from Kenya. Because Kenya will use the raw materials in their own industries. China will compete markets of their manufactured goods in Kenya because Kenya will be industrial. And again, manufactured goods from Kenya will be sold in East African countries. For that case, China will not give any loan which has a purpose of developing industries in Africa. Never. All the loans you will get from China, all the loans you are getting from Western countries, will go direct on things which are not directly related to industrialization. Because if they support that one, it's just like cutting their own hands. Because it will be creating someone to bring that kind of competition. It's just like he's saying, I don't know how to explain, like, I don't know. You cannot do that. So, that's why Africans have to be very careful what kind of loans you ask from China and what kind of loans you don't need to ask. Because if you ask a loan for industries, they don't give you, they'll give the loan to build a rail, because they know for sure that railway will not have impact of stopping their manufactured goods. It has no impact of taking your raw materials. But if you build very good way of maybe agricultural system to be very strong, good schools, good technology, that means you will end up having good raw materials, enough raw materials, and then you will be forced automatically to create industries in your own country. So you don't need China. So there is no problem of building flyover. There is no problem building railways. But the only thing is, let's link the two. It's not supposed to be just for traffic, to reduce the traffic, people to go to work in downtown. No. It's not supposed to be like this. If I put this on, people can take a selfie or take the pictures for their wedding. No. Let's link between the use of this railway, the use of these roads, towards like what kind of business can we do along this one? What kind of raw materials, what kind of manufactured goods can we be able to transport in a very short time? I remember my father used to work on the railway station. There are so many business from Dar es Salaam going to Kigoma. Kigoma is the end. People from Congo, Zambia, use that road. It was typical. There was a big goods train. If you use that way, you are building economy. So we link business within one country over another one, and how we can be able to transport things, how we can get money, just rather than just like, okay, let's be for communication, like simple transaction. So let's do that way. Like, it's not supposed to have just, let's build nice roads just to make the city beautiful. Yes, there is a beautiful, but what economic point of view? Apart from just people going to work and reduce the traffic, how are we going to use these roads? How are we going to use these railways towards bigger picture of building strong economy in Africa? How we can build economy and the sustainability? How are we going to link these kind of roads, railways with our own technology? Are they architecturals, whatever those people? Are those people doing civil engineering? Are they Chinese or Japanese, or they are all Africans? Are these people creating, blueprint, everything they are doing, are they Africans? Our industries, our universities, do they prepare African engineers to take over these innovations? Or when we get the loan, they give us all these Chinese to come to help us to build everything? Even if they come, we are the owners, they can come as technical support, but not the main people to dominate our technology. Because if we dominate it, that means we create employment for our own people. We create demand of our engineers to keep growing. So that is how we can link everything together into development. And overall, economy of Africa is doing very, very well. I understand, but it's just how you can understand the outside world. Okay, we were so late into capitalism, but the real capitalism, we have to know how it operates, so that we can be in a position that when we get loans, we have to know what we call the terms of the loans. We have to understand, not just jumping, they give us money, then we sign the loans, and then we default the loan and we are in so much trouble. And especially the new loans from China, they're a little bit scary. So, what is your take on that? What should we do? How can we link these two? Our education systems, plus infrastructure system, beyond roads and railways. How do we use internet? Because that is communication. Are we using internet into future of Africa? That's important. How expensive it is to use internet in Africa? Are we reducing the cost so that people can be easily accessing internet, communication, cell phone? Apart from that, how do we use? Am I just calling you to say, how are you doing? Did you eat ugali today? Did you eat just matoke? Did you eat just rice? Are we using how are we using cell phone? If you go, I'm just in many African countries, we have so many WhatsApp groups. One person is into more than 50 WhatsApp groups. How are you keeping up with all those WhatsApp groups? And what kind of content do you talk over there? In the end, you end up the same message, the same video is circulating into all those groups. You are in the group of colleagues from primary school, you are in the groups in secondary school, groups for workers, group for university, group for masters, whatever. All these so much groups, group for politics, groups for soccer, whatever. So in the end, you're having the same topic. Today, Davido has a baby. Entire Africa, they are forwarding the same photo of Davido with the newborn. The same African countries might end up we are just going to discuss simple things. Yes, we have to do entertainment. Yes, Arsenal or Manchester, but are we only those topics to talk about? How are we using these WhatsApp groups as the business areas, advertising, sharing this opportunity about this scholarship, this one? There is this opportunity announced somewhere. How can we use this to coach one another? How are we using at the university level? Because at the university we are teachers are teaching about communication skills, how to write a letter. But do we teach people nowadays how to use WhatsApp as a professional way communicating and getting jobs? Professional networking through WhatsApp. Because all the time I get someone message, hi, hello, with a double O, 10 O's. How are you going to send the first message to potential employer? How are you going to communicate? Let's use WhatsApp as a tool on how we can use this communication to excel. Not just chatting every single time, talking about politics and drama and so many other things. I understand we have so many groups. They do better things in their groups. But let's do much, much better overall. Means of communication. Transport and communication have to be is the driving force of Africa's economy. Otherwise, that's why in America, for instance, here, Just go and ask any typical American who has never been out or doesn't have any friend outside. They do not know even what is WhatsApp. Though WhatsApp was discovered in these headquarters in America, people do not know what is WhatsApp because it is wasting people's time. But some people in Africa, they wake up at 5 a.m. WhatsApp, 10 p.m. WhatsApp, 1 a.m. WhatsApp, and all this time is just forwarding, laughing, whatever. I understand you have to do those jokes and all that, but is that the only thing we'll be doing for WhatsApp? How many hours do you spend on WhatsApp? How much money do you use per week on WhatsApp bundles, internet bundles? For what purpose? What do you gain in that week? In terms of education-wise, you find someone in university is spending all the time into WhatsApp, but doesn't go to find scholarship opportunities. Doesn't go to find certain articles published by other authors. Like, really? And then we wonder why America is leading, why European countries are leading around the world. Yes, they have fun, but also they use internet as a source on ways, reduce the cost and ways on how they can excel. So we need it as a country, as a continent, we needed to create different ways on how this communication, how these infrastructures, we can build them. Even in traveling from one country to another country, restriction on visas, all these things, they just relate. Let's break down the colonial blueprint, like which was there to separate us. What do you think? How can we do a better way? I need your comment. I need your advice. I need your opinion on this. I wrote a book about that, like Imperialism 2.0. Whoa, why Africa? Why all this is happening? Do you want to tell me that all these African leaders, all these people studying with bachelor, master's, PhD, we don't see all these things we can do better? Or just our self-interest, personal interest, get ahead of ourselves? Yeah. Let's discuss this one in a very positive, not attacking any leader. This is not a political forum. It's just how we can do from individual point of view. How are you going to change your WhatsApp use? How are you going to change how you use your cell phone in a very productive way? Don't tell me, oh, this leader did 1, 2, 3. No. All leaders are product of the society. Let's change the society first, ourselves. How we conduct ourselves. That's why I took initiative myself. I got out of almost all WhatsApp groups because I was wasting my time too. Now I'm using WhatsApp. I'm using Facebook to drive people on things I want to do. I'm writing a book. I send this is the link. How I can bring people on my own backyard so that you can have this conversation, so that I can sell it, I can give them the books, I can explain them how they can succeed, things of that nature. So thank you everyone, and I'm waiting to hear your opinion, your comment, your questions about this topic. Okay, let me end here. In case you haven't subscribed yet, do that as soon as possible. Thank you everyone, and I wish you all the best.